I've had it come from like a manager side where I was delivered really harsh feedback in a way that kind of set me up for failure rather than success, because from then on, I was always afraid. I was always afraid, and I interpreted everything as bad feedback. And then that led to other problems of like having no more confidence at work, right? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another work-related video. Today's video is going to be signs that your job might be toxic for you. This video has been very highly requested. I have dropped some hints and some comments about things that have been toxic about my jobs in the past, and you guys really wanted to hear like a full video on this. And so today is the day. Here we go. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am nervous to be filming this video because this video is extremely opinions-based and not really facts-based. The reason for this is because everything as it relates to like toxicness and your feelings at work is extremely personal. Everybody experiences things different ways, everybody interprets things differently, and what might be toxic for one person might not be toxic for someone else. In the same way, I feel like there are many different schools of thoughts as it comes to work. I've outlined 3 for this video. The first is the like millennial school of thought, which is that you're meant to love your job and feel excited and feel passionate. The second school of thought is you get in, you get your money, and you get out. You're not meant to enjoy work. You're not meant to love work. If you do, that's a bonus, but you get in, you turn off your thoughts, and you get out. The third is what I would call the more old school approach, which is very based in like respect. You don't talk badly about your employer. You don't disagree with your manager. You get in and you do your job, and that's that, right? I'm sure you guys can guess, I am definitely of the first school of thought. I believe that we spend so much time at work and that work is so much a part of our identity that you are better off loving your job, and if that's not possible, enjoying your job, and if that's not possible, at least not have your job drain from your life, because you spend so much time there and you deserve to be happy in life. So remember, take everything I say in this video with a grain of salt. Remember that these are just my opinions and that you should reflect and form your own opinions. And let me know those opinions down below, respectfully, please. Now, I believe that a job is like a relationship, right? A relationship, like let's say a romantic one, is that person that you spend probably most of your time with, right? You spend a lot of time with them, and we spend a lot of our lives looking for that perfect person to be in a relationship with. We'll go on so many dates. We'll go on all the apps. We'll try everything to meet that perfect person. And if things aren't going right with that person, we let them go. We don't stay in relationships that aren't healthy for us. We don't stay in relationships that are toxic to us. But yet, although we spend the majority of our waking hours at work, we will not let go of a job that is toxic for us. We will not say no thank you and move on. It's so much harder to move on from a job because of this societal pressure to stay in a job for a certain amount of years, or who cares if you don't love your job. But like I said, my opinion is that you deserve to be happy. So my opinion is very much, if your job is no longer serving you, and especially if your job is ruining your quality of life, you need to move on. If your relationship was ruining your quality of life, all of your friends would be sitting there telling you to move on, your family members, everything. So why isn't it the same with our jobs? But just like in a relationship, communication can help heal things. So keep that in mind as I go through some of these points in this video, that it doesn't need to be black or white. It doesn't need to be, oh my God, my manager does this, it's over. You can communicate and you can stand up for yourself and you can heal certain things in your job. It's not black and white. So here are the signs that your job might be toxic for you. Now, some of these are from my personal experience. Some of these are from my personal opinion, watching friends go through it, etc. And some of these are from some articles that I read about the subject, which I will have linked down below. So if you're interested, you can read more about it. There's so much to cover on this topic, and I was overwhelmed when I was doing my research for this video. So I decided to keep it really with like my own, the ones that are close to my heart for this video. And if you guys want like a part 2 or something, you can let me know. So sign number 1 that your job might be toxic for you is that you can't stop thinking about work. Now, I have experienced this so much at pretty much every job that I've had, you know, like a real career job, like outside of school. I would wake up thinking about work and I would go to bed thinking about work. I would be out with my friends thinking about work. I'd be hanging out with my family thinking about work. You're not meant to think about work 24/7. I feel like if you own your own business, that might be different. If you're like an entrepreneur and you know, you're really like into it, or maybe even at work if you're working on a really specific project. But all of the time, all of your days, you're not meant to just spend thinking about work, worrying about work. It's just not right. This is something that I think journaling can help with, maybe meditation. But if it's really coming from a place of anxiety that you can't stop thinking about work, you need to reflect on why you can't stop thinking about it and if it's because this job is toxic for you. It could also be that you just have general work anxiety, which is something that leaving your job won't fix. That will follow you through every job like it did to me, but it's definitely something to be aware of. Similar to that, another sign is that you can never put your phone away, or you're always checking your phone in case something happens for work. I think Slack is really toxic because instant messaging creates this sense of urgency that isn't always necessary. I remember at my last job receiving Slacks like at all hours of the day and night. And that contributed to me not being able to stop thinking about work, because even if I wasn't working, I would get a Slack and I would start thinking about work. I think a lot of companies need to learn how to be more careful with Slack and need to also promote that their employees turn off Slack at certain hours of the day, because it's normal that maybe you're like having dinner and then you get a great idea and you want to put it in Slack so you don't forget it. But turning off your notifications during non-working hours can really go a long way. That being said, some jobs want you to be available on Slack at night, on the weekends, on your day off, which I just think is really wrong. It's so important to rest. And if your job is not allowing you to do that, if you feel like you need to constantly be in communication and it's not really necessary, like you're not a doctor constantly communicating with their patients, I don't know. I think that requires a little bit of reflection and think to yourself, what kind of boundaries can I put up around this? And you know, how can I communicate to my manager that this just isn't working, all of this constant communication? Another trait that I've experienced is not even that people are messaging me on Slack or sending emails, but I'm worried that they will. So I'm always like clicking on my phone, trying to see if something happened. That's really toxic too. And it shows that there's like a kind of sense of urgency and urgent environment that your work has created, or that you've created for yourself at work, that is really toxic. That again can be fixed by just setting boundaries on your phone, setting up working hours. So some phones have like apps that you can trigger as like a work app that will shut off after a certain time, and hold yourself accountable. Don't open that email at night. If you see you got an email, don't open it. And that's kind of like a muscle that you need to work out, because especially if you're like an anxious person, you want to know what that email says. But really practice restraint and letting yourself wait. Put things on pause. Let it wait until the morning. You don't need to act right away. A lot of the urgency is not actually our job's fault, but it's our fault for creating that sense of urgency for ourselves. And just like a muscle, you can train that to not feel so urgent all the time, and you can begin to relax. This is a big one, and I think this is probably one of the most important signs that your job is toxic for you, and that is that you dread waking up in the morning. I think it's normal to have a little bit of Sunday scaries, but at the same time, we only have 2 days in the weekend, and having your whole Sunday every single week dedicated to worrying about work is not cool. It's not a fun way to live life. Even worse than that is every single morning dreading waking up and going to sit at your computer or going to the office is such a horrible way to live life. I've experienced that firsthand, where I would wake up sometimes crying because I didn't want to go to work, or I would not be able to get out of bed because I was so anxious about what the day had in store for me. And it's just so hard. It's really a sign that this job is beyond. It's really gone into a place of toxicity that it's affecting your life so much so that you dread getting out of bed and you dread the days. I just think, I don't know. It makes me sad because that's not how we're meant to live life. So I don't think there's one remedy for that. I think it's a lot of things, but just trying to create a more positive relationship with work. Like I said, setting boundaries, asking for projects that you're more excited about. Those are ways that you can help get yourself more enthusiastic in the morning. But maybe it just comes down to this job isn't the right fit for me, and that's why I'm dreading waking up. And it's okay to admit that. The next sign is that you feel like you would do anything for this company, but you don't feel like you would get the same in return. I haven't actually firsthand experienced this, but I have friends who have, where they have worked really long hours. They have, driven out to the middle of nowhere to do a favor for their boss. They've really bent over backwards for their boss or for the company, but they don't get that same treatment in return. When they ask for help, their colleagues aren't there to help them. Or when they need support or a day off, their manager says no, right? That is very toxic. And I think all relationships should be give and take, same with work. And that can be just in terms of you work really hard, but you get paid really well, right? That's one way. Another is you help your colleagues when they want to go on vacation, but then they're also helping you when you go on vacation. It's all about balance, and it's definitely okay and it's needed to work hard sometimes, to bend over backwards sometimes, but you should always make sure that it's being reciprocated or will be reciprocated when you need it. Next sign is something that I am so guilty of, and that is overthinking communications. So I think there's two sides to this. The first is incoming communications, overanalyzing everything, freaking out, being like, oh my God, is my manager mad at me? Is the client mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Really reading into tone, punctuation, anything you can read into on the email and jumping to conclusions can show that maybe things have gotten a little bit toxic. That could be on the manager's side or on your side. You could just, be very anxious in general. I've had it come from a manager side where I was delivered really harsh feedback in a way that kind of set me up for failure rather than success, because from then on, I was always afraid. I was always afraid, and I interpreted everything as bad feedback. And then that led to other problems of having no more confidence at work, right? So you need to analyze if you're overanalyzing everything and figure out why and if there's something that you can do about it. On the other side is overanalyzing your communications. So if you have to reread a message 5 times before you send it, I think that's too much. It's one thing to reread for grammar, for punctuation, to make sure you covered all of your bases, but it's another thing to be always striving for perfection in every single message that you send to your manager. I've definitely done that, where I'll type out a message and then I'm like, okay, is the tone okay? Do I sound angry? Is it the right time? Oh, it's 9:43. They're already in a meeting. Just overanalyzing every single detail about the communication that I'm going to send. And again, I think that comes from a place of fear, and you need to look into why are you afraid, and again, what can you do about it? Next thing is that you are bored, your skills aren't being utilized, or you're not learning anything. A huge thing about work, and an amazing thing about work, is it feels good to be productive. It feels good to feel like you're using your skills and that your skills are valued. And it also feels good to learn new things, right? We're always aiming for progression, or most of us are, or we should be, I don't know. But if none of these things are happening for you at work, things are gonna feel really stagnant, and that can lead to these feelings of resentment, to these feelings of dread, and just feelings of that your work is meaningless, which honestly can impact your life. I've experienced that, where I've been bored at work, and then I feel like I'm not good at anything, and I feel like I'm not contributing to the world, and I'm just meh, I'm not doing anything, right? These feelings can really play with our self-worth and can become toxic. I spoke about this in my mistakes I made early in my career video, where I was not asking for more work. So I was like finishing all of my work, feeling bored, but I wasn't taking the step to ask for more work. This one is something that you can really do something about. You can ask for more work. You can ask for more challenging work, and you can ask for career progression and for promotions. If all of these things are being turned down, it might be your sign to look for a new job where your skills will be valued, where you will be learning things, and where you will not be bored. The next sign, and again, I've experienced this, is you don't feel like you can be yourself. This one makes me really sad. I definitely felt this when I was working in my Big Four consulting job. I just did not feel like I could be myself at work. I felt like I needed to hide certain aspects of my personality. I felt like I couldn't be funny. I felt like I couldn't be silly. And I love to like be funny and silly. So yeah, I didn't feel like I was surrounded by colleagues or by superiors, and just overall a company culture where I could be myself. And a lot of the times that's something that you can't change. Like company culture, it is what it is. And it's totally okay to look around at different jobs and make sure that you're gonna fit in with the company culture. I definitely recommend when you are looking at jobs to ask about the culture, see what it's like, because like I said, you can't change it, but you can make sure that you're going to a company that you align with the culture. Other ways you may feel like you can't be yourself at work is in terms of values, in terms of diversity and inclusion. So again, making sure that you're going to a company that values diversity and inclusion, that is not, an exclusive company that only hires people that fit a certain mold. I think that's super important. At the same time, if you feel like the company culture is good, but it's yourself that's getting in the way from really opening up and being yourself, I would recommend starting with 1 or 2 colleagues. Try and make friends with some of your colleagues and see if you can come out of your shell a little bit more and see what the reaction is like, because you should feel like yourself at work. I understand there's some career paths where maybe you can't like be funny and silly, and like that's okay. But even just with your colleagues, when you're like on break or when you're taking a breather, like being able to be yourself is so important, and it's going to contribute to that feeling of fulfillment and happiness at work. You guys, the last sign that your job might be toxic for you is because your gut or your intuition says so. I love this one. I recently posted a video about intuition and how my intuition predicted that I was going to lose my job. And a lot of you guys commented that you've had experience with intuition predicting a job loss as well, or simply just predicting that a job isn't right for you. So if you want, you can check out that video. You can also just look up intuition. I think it's super interesting and super important and definitely can guide us. Another word for intuition that may resonate more with you is gut feeling. And this point, I didn't even think of it when I was making this list, and I read it in the Forbes article and I was like, yeah, if your gut tells you that your job is toxic and your job is not the right fit for you, well, that's it. I think your gut and your intuition always knows best. And now you guys, it's not just me saying that, it's backed by Forbes, so there you go. So those are just a few of the signs that your job might be toxic for you. Again, I don't want you guys to like see this, resonate with 1 or 2 of them and run and quit your job. That's really not the goal. The goal with this video is for you to reflect and think about, how can I make my work situation better so that I can be happier at work, because you deserve to be happy at work. Now, I want to end this video on a few points that I read in my research, just to really bring home why is this so important. So not just like my opinion, some girl on the internet who's quit her job many times and blah, 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 okay? This is backed by research why this is important. So the number one, and this is from Business Insider, is that a toxic job can really hurt your mental and physical health. A toxic job can lead to depression, which is very, very serious. It can also lead to physical symptoms like headaches and migraines. You might experience your hair falling out. You might experience stomach pains. All of these things are very real symptoms, and they're also serious. So keep that in mind. Like, it's not just about loving your job, woohoo, but also preventing these physical side effects that can come with really not enjoying your job. Now, flat out, I saw a lot of articles about how not liking your job can in the end make you depressed. Now, the one that I read was from Healthline, and it was saying that being depressed at work can lead to things like absenteeism, so just not showing up altogether, which can seriously hurt your career. Things like not wanting to get out of bed, and just overall depression and depression symptoms like not feeling that joie de vivre, the joy of living that we're meant to be feeling. It can also lead to things like increased use of substances like drugs and alcohol. I experienced that a lot with the alcohol. I was using alcohol to escape my problems when I really didn't like my job. And another thing that I turned to was excessive shopping to kind of like numb the pain. So these are all tangible side effects that can come along with working in a job that's toxic for you. So we're gonna end on that very sad note. No, but I wanna end on a positive note. There is always room for change, okay? I've gotten comments being like, oh my God, like you quit 2 jobs and you got laid off and you'll never be successful in life. Well, honestly, I will. I will, because you can choose if you wanna be successful, and companies nowadays are becoming more and more open-minded and progressive when it comes to trying different jobs, finding out what's right for you, and understanding that this generation really is looking for something that they're passionate about, that makes them happy. So you can absolutely find an employer that meets you halfway. And just remember, you absolutely deserve to be happy. So that's a wrap on this video. I hope it was helpful and interesting for you guys. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a respectful discussion down there. And until then, well, after then, I don't know, whatever. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.